Hi there, Simon from simonwoods.com. Bordeaux-inspired reds today, 4 of them. I say Bordeaux-inspired, some people say Bordeaux-style reds, and then I taste the wines and there's absolutely nothing that they have in common with Bordeaux. So these are made from the Bordeaux grape varieties. It's like, I suppose, if somebody has tried a poulet poulet de Bresse, and then they have a Kentucky Fried Chicken and you think, oh, this is poulet de Bresse style fried chicken. It's not at all. It's just the same raw ingredients. That's me on my high horse. Let's get into this into my nostrils. 2 wines from Snoqualmie to start with, in the Columbia Valley in Washington State. Washington State is the state above California. So it goes California, Oregon, Washington, and Columbia Valley. So 2007 vintage. I stick my nose in and I'm getting a little bit of plumminess. I'm getting a little bit of leafy edge, which I want in a wine. I don't want to smell jam. I think Merlot and Cabernet, I expect a little bit of tobacco leaf, and I'm getting it here. Ooh, it's one of those wines that smells nicer than it tastes. Yes, it has got that little plummy edge, but behind it there's not a huge amount. There's this softness there, but there's a slightly muddy oak edge. I'd almost have preferred it, I don't know what it says about oak aging here, but I'd almost have preferred it if they'd left it in unoaked form and just let that plummy fruit shine out. Ach man. Next wine. We are on their same vintage, same winery, but they're Cabernet Sauvignon. And Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot from Washington State, at their best, can give Napa Valley a run for its money. And they are as good for me, but often not quite as expensive. I smell that, and I get a little bit more of the greener, mintier edge of Cabernet, but I'm just wondering whether the bottle's okay. There's something that is ever so slightly grubby here. Yeah, that's the sort of wine, if I tasted it with the winemaker, I'd say to him something polite like, does that taste as you expect it to? I've got a feeling that there's a touch of cork taint there. But, hey, corks, don't you love them? Anyway, Nostros. We're down in the southern bit of America now, South America, in Chile. Nostros Gran Reserva Merlot, 2006. I suppose a couple of things to say here. Firstly, the Merlot in Chile. 20 years ago, if you saw Merlot on a Chilean bottle, it would probably mean that the wine was 70 to 80% Carmenere with a little bit of proper Merlot in there. 10 years ago, 50% Carmenere, 50% Merlot. I think the wines that you're getting now, certainly the ones that leave the country, I would expect to be like 90-95% Merlot. But I think I am fully prepared to be proved wrong, that you're still allowed to label wines that have got Carmenere in as Merlot, because there was this big confusion. It all came out about mid-90s that what they had been calling Merlot was actually, there was what they call Merlot, proper Merlot, and Merlot Carmenere. They were thinking, like, why are we picking this lot 3 weeks earlier than this one? And then they worked out that the 3 weeks earlier bit was Merlot and the 3 weeks later bit was Carmenere. So interesting, I've got a Merlot and a Carmenere here. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to be Merlot from Casablanca. Oh, and it's got the very, very distinctive Chilean red, blackcurrant pastels, bit of mint, bit of blackberry. Yes, it's one of the, I've said it before, one of those smells you cannot mistake. Well, if I'm buying that, the other thing was the term Gran Reserva. It doesn't mean anything. Gran Reserva in Spain, there are regulations. You cannot put Gran Reserva on your bottle unless it has had, well, in Rioja, for example, you can't put Gran Reserva on your bottle until it's at least 5 years from the vintage, or the January following 5 years from the vintage, and 2 years of those have been spent in oak. But in Chile, it doesn't mean anything. Reserva doesn't mean anything. People tend to slap it on their most ambitious bottles. And here I almost wish they'd taken more of a Spanish approach to the Gran Reserva feeling, because it feels, what I'm left with fruit, and I'm left with slightly raw oak. So instead of the Spanish approach where you have 2 years in oak, I wouldn't be surprised if this had had something like 9 months in oak or less. Because the oak influence here, what I'm left with at the end is a slightly raw green edge of oak, and the fruit is still very ripe, bright, and still for me too angular. The weird thing is that if they had left it in the barrel for a few months longer, 6 months longer, the fruit would have been more mellow and there would actually have been less of an oak influence. What you're getting now is the raw, it's almost like all the flavour and all the tannin has been extracted from the barrel, but the beneficial edges of being aged in the barrel for that little bit longer, the softening, rounding out edges, that hasn't happened here. So I don't know whether I prefer it to the, I think I probably just about prefer it to the Snoqualmie Merlot, but there was a better wine to be made here. Okay, that was Merlot. Let's go on to Carmenere. A year older, and from the Rapel Valley. Now the Rapel is, there are two sub-regions, Colchagua, which is the really famous one for its fuller-bodied reds, and Carmenere does very well there, and Cachapual. I've got a feeling that this is not in neither of them. They wouldn't have like blended stuff together to make this. I've got a feeling that this is a vineyard that is outside both regions, but so it comes under Rapel. Let's give it a whirl. It's 2005, so it's 5 years old now. Now I smell this, and yes, this is labelled Gran Reserva. I've got a feeling that they've actually done more of the oak aging here. It feels softer, it feels more mellow. Yes, it's a year older, but yes, it feels like it's excuse me a moment, I'm just going to have to talk to my glamorous assistant. Excuse me, please don't come in, Daddy's filming. Okay. How's about that? Right, back to where we were. Yeah, this is it's got that little bit a bit more softness in there, and so I think that this is going to be softer, plummier, and yes, it is a year older, but I think it's going to be for its benefit. Yeah, Carmenere for me can sometimes be almost too angular and too extreme. But I think that the treatment that they've given it here, combined with the age of the wine, has given something that's a bit softer, certainly rounder. It's got these berries, it's got this edge of vanilla, but it's vanilla in balance with the rest of the wine. You're getting a little bit of herbal, minty edge. Some people say Carmenere reminds them of a little bit of something exotic like five spice or hoisin, and I do get a little bit of that character there. But that's a good wine. That I was a bit disappointed on the performance of the first three. I thought I'm going to get to the Carmenere and not like it, because I'll be honest, it's not my favourite grape variety. But here, with the age, with the good élevage, they've done a pretty good job, and I have a feeling that I might not spit this last mouthful out. So while I'm swigging it, see you soon.